Sophie, his 13th birthday. Gift? We've got you. Guitar? Coming tomorrow. Road game today, surprise party tomorrow. Change of plans. Game tomorrow.
No, birthday tomorrow.
Hotel! Guitar. Reroute.
Birthdays are on birthdays.
Party? Relocate. UPS My Choice makes rerouting packages easy. How we're helping companies solve for the needs of customers like Sophie.
The coaches had our players very well prepared. Our players were very well motivated for the game. We had so many twists and turns in the game that we found a lot of things out again. After scoring the first time and almost scoring the second time to go up 14 when we turned the ball over, we gave up 21 straight points. And I think to see our players really not blink or say, oh my goodness, here we go again, or something to take us along those lines, and to come back and score 34 against Marshall, and not only that, to put up 65, which I believe is the most in regulation play in the history of their stadium, which is a long time with a very, very good program. And so that says a lot about our players. So it was a true team effort. We scored points defensively with a couple of touchdowns, kicking game with a touchdown, offensively 6 or 7 more touchdowns. That's the way you want to win a game as a team in a game like that. We obviously have already put that one behind us, but for the sake of this press conference, we'll talk about it. But it's one that's important to us. I have a great deal of respect for Marshall and for their coaching staff. I know their head coach very well and what work he's put into that program. But anybody that understands football knows the great tradition at Marshall, as far as a group of 5 or mid-major that we call them, even back to the days they were 1-8, they have been a championship program throughout much of their history. And then in the last 3 years, they've won 33 straight games. So at our level of football, they represent really one of the premier programs at this group of 5 level of football that we play in. And so to go get one, and I think someone once said, well, you only beat teams that had losing records, in the past. And we used to lose to all those teams with losing records, and now we're getting – you got to get credit for winning games, even if they have losing records. But in the past – but that was a big one for that reason. I think they're a very, very good program, and it was a very big win for us, and so I'm awful proud of it. That being said, and I think we came out of there fairly healthy. I don't know that we have any injuries from that game, although I think we found out that Warren Ball was hurt in the Wisconsin game, and we're not sure which game he'll be back. That'll be a week-to-week process because of his injury from that game. Van Edwards was banged up, and he could be back. And I don't have to give an injury report on everybody, but we've Anthony Young. We lost him for the year in that Wisconsin game. His shoulder surgery was yesterday. We weren't sure they were going to have to do that, but they had to give shoulder surgery. We lost Anthony Young. He had 4 catches in that game. We lost him for the year in that game. So, another example of being a physical football team. Wisconsin, we came out of that with some tough cuts. But that being said, we're pretty healthy this week coming into Appalachian State. And this game, I'm probably a better football team than Marshall. We're out of the furnace into the fire. And so our players are, underdogs again. And our players are responding to it. No, we've got an incredible team that's, I think, they've won 20 out of their last 21 games. So they have an unbelievable. Their record is they've got a statistic in their notes. It's pretty incredible too. How many once they started winning, they won 11 games last year. They've lost 2 this year, but to Miami and Tennessee, and so that's probably not even a blemish when it comes to blemishes on your record. So anyway, we've got a huge task at hand this week, and our players know it. And we're playing a team even probably as well. A great coaching staff. They do just Appalachian State's a great football team, and with a great story.
Just looking back for a moment, last year you're down 21-7. Do you come back from that?
I don't think so, George. Not because the kids didn't want to come back or because they didn't have the will to win. We didn't have the offensive firepower. We had made our mind up as we began to pursue through the season that, gosh, we better be a little more pedestrian, a little more deliberate on offense. We've got a great defense, the number 1 defense in the conference. We better be willing to run the ball on 3rd down, punt the ball, play field position. We didn't have a lot of weapons out there that could score quickly, but in the off season we made a commitment to being a little more productive, and I think we've seen that in the games this year, that at times, because of the speed of our receivers, the athleticism maybe of our offensive line, that we can score. So, yeah, I don't know that I would have ever thought last year we were down 14, 21 points because of the type of team that we had. That wasn't our style. But this game, we found out that, I think after the first couple of games, even the first game where it was kind of a back and forth affair for 3 quarters, once we exploded, we started scoring points.
How freeing is it to have that triumvirate of receivers?
Well, I mean, with guys that, again, when we're throwing and catching, it's quarterback and receivers. When we're throwing and catching, and we have a pretty swift group of guys that can run pretty well. If we can throw and catch, it always gives you a chance to make a big play. And big plays it adds such a spark to your football team. So, again, that's just we thought coming into the season with Jerome Lane and JoJo Natson, even Wolf, A.J. Coney, some of the guys that are going to continue to be players for us down the road, that we had a chance to have a pretty good passing attack. And Tommy Woodson had come along very well toward the end of the season last year. And so right now, that's offensively, that is one of our strengths. We had a good week. We rushed for our starting tailback rushed for 130 yards last week, and that's a big day for him. 7.2 yard average per carry, and that's our second 100-yard rusher in 3 games, which we hadn't had as much of that here, as we would have liked, and so we're continuing to try to get to mix that in.
How different is it seeing JoJo Natson in practice versus actually out on the field?
Well, we tell our players every day that how they practice, how they're going to play, and we run enough things in practice, and we have gone. JoJo's been here for a year. He had to sit out a year, so he practiced throughout the spring and throughout the fall. So we've known the type of skills that he has, and he's gone against us, and we've known that. So what we've seen in the game, we anticipated him being effective, and again, we need to spread out a little bit more of our we need to get a little more productivity out of other people as well. But we expected him to be a playmaker. He's returned a punt for a touchdown. He's made some big touchdown catches, and we did expect that to happen. But we're going to continue to hope that he can provide that type of production and punch in the upcoming games.
Coach, from the game that I like to ask about. The first touchdown, Michael Traylor Bennett, was the shovel pass. Was
Right.
that a improvised play, or was that a set play in the playbook?
Yeah, Michael Traylor Bennett is another name that he was a wide receiver at about 228, and we moved him into H-back. But it does give you a wide receiver, a guy that can have some catching skills. But we thought that might be a play to add a little something different to our offense. We hadn't run that before, but we practiced it during the spring. And so it's a play that's in our offense. The quarterback can keep it and pitch it or run it, and it's a touchdown pass. It's not a run, although it's basically a running play. And so that was part of our offense. It was part of our game plan for Marshall, and it worked. The first time you do it, if you execute, you hope it'll work, and it did.
The play, also, you mentioned Anthony Young out for the year in the Wisconsin game. It's the old next man out. Quadarius Smith came up with a big touchdown off that slant. Could we see more Quadarius as we go along as the season progresses?
Yeah, I think we really do need to. Quadarius he transferred here from Missouri, but he grew up down the street from me in Orlando. Went to school with my kids, and I watched him through high school. And we tried to recruit him, but he turned down a football scholarship for us to get a full scholarship to Missouri in track. But he kind of wanted to do football and track, and they didn't give him that opportunity, so he transferred up here, and he set out. But he's got very good speed as well. He and Anthony Young are our true track receivers that can run. So we want to make sure that we began to get him in there. But he is a track star that's learning how to play football. So some guys are receivers that can run fast. He's a fast guy that can learn how to catch. And so he's learning how to be a college receiver. And so I think as that happens, you can see more and more of him. We lost Anthony Young for the year, but Anthony is another one of those guys that transferred from Indiana. He's from Medina. Anthony Young is a local that we try to recruit. He goes to Indiana on scholarship, track scholarship, wants to play football and track, comes back here, and we're allowed to play football. So those are just two guys that mostly they're guys we knew. who came back. Not so much we were out there looking for a track guy. They're two guys that we knew and that would be a good fit for our program. But A.J. Coney, he made some big plays last year and some big plays this spring. He's been overshadowed by Jerome Lane, and so he needs to be involved a little bit more. We've seen Wolf, what he can do, because Wolf has got great speed. He's been injured a little bit. So, again, those are all those are going to help our running game, and now it'll be interesting in the future as teams decide, well, those are the guys we have to stop this week. Let's stop those guys completely, how that affects the other things that we have to be able to do on offense.
Also with Trevon in the second quarter, when he scored the touchdown, was that also a set, planned down in the red zone?
No, it wasn't. No, our starting quarterback got banged. There's just a little bit of soreness, and he needed a breather. And so Trevon, we have a lot of comfort in Trevon's ability to run our offense, and he went in there and did exactly what we expected him to do. He's a little better runner than he is thrower, and he saw people covered and he ran. And then we ran a little option with him, and it was covered, so he went reverse field and scored. And so, yeah, I thought and I made a point to our team that Manny Morgan at tailback and Trevon Chapman, when their number got called, they responded. When they got called to support this team, and every one of our team, when you're backup or you're second team or third team, Manny was actually fourth team. You take Hakeem Lawrence, has been injured. He was fourth at the very best coming into this season, and so now he's the starting tailback right now. Trevon Chapman waited his turn and came out there and delivered, and Quad Smith, when he got a shot, he answered the bell. And so I think it's great for our team, for guys that are now pushing and having to sit the bench or back up to keep their head in the game, because you never know when those guys are going to be called on to win a game. We could be sitting here complaining about no running attack. We just got nobody. We lost our top backs. Well, our next back rushed for 130 yards, and so you're not complaining about it, So that's part of the reason.
Where's Woodson's confidence level right now? It's still early. Right now, the one thing he really needs to work on was passing percentage. He's 10 points higher than he was
last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've given him some chance. We've helped with our throwing and catching department too. That helps a good bit. But he's improving. His goal was to get better, to be a better quarterback, to be a better manager of our offense and leader of our offense and productive and working in the red zone and getting us into the end zone. So all those things, he's now a returning starter, a much more polished quarterback who's tried to refine his game. His accuracy is what he really worked on hard too. He's never been an inaccurate quarterback, but there was another level he could get to in accuracy, and he's really worked hard to get that. And again, every game he's got to continue to do that, fight hard to become the better quarterback. There's still even more huge upside to Tommy Woodson as he improves, but his accuracy, even against Wisconsin, we threw less than 50%. Very seldom was he not on the accurate. They covered very well. We weren't very open, but very seldom was he not accurate against even Wisconsin.
Looking back to that game, there were a couple ticky-tacky judgment penalties. Your team seemed to lose discipline a couple times. What have you told them to correct that? I mean,
we had 13, I think, penalties. They had 18. We had 30 or 31 penalties between the two teams, and it was 300. And I want to say the only game I've ever seen that bad was us against Marshall 3 years ago. It was over 30 penalties that game, too. So I don't know if it's the fact that because Doc and I are both pretty blue-collar fighters, it's kind of a backyard brawl for us. And I don't know if we bring that to our players a little too much, because, we're not going to take anything off of them. They're not going to take anything off us. And after a while, it just got kind of silly that there were so many ticky-tacky, but they were probably all little penalties. We went through every one of our penalties. Which ones can we correct? It can be we cannot do this. We cannot put our hand in their face mask. We cannot step across. Somebody jumped over somebody, personal foul for jumping over somebody. We cannot do that. A lot of the holding calls on pass interference for both teams were going to do. The receivers were getting off open. And so I'm not sure how much you're going to stop all of that in that type of game. But I think we have got to do a good job of reducing our penalties, so when we get into a game where it's a tight ball game and the other team's not, you can't have it. You can't have it, So it's a part. I've said this before in our press conference that quite often the most penalized team is the best team in America because they often are way ahead. Their defenses was wild and reckless. Teams like us that need to win every game we can't afford that. Sometimes we play with that mentality. We have to be very, very disciplined, a lot more disciplined than we are. So we're trying to correct that, and we've eliminated some of them and not other ones. And so, like a game like against Marshall, we were playing a lot of man coverage as opposed to playing zone. Well, all of a sudden we have 3 or 4 holding calls, secondary pass interference. They have just as many, if not more, but the next game we play all zone, you don't see those penalties. So we've got to make sure we correct those. But like I say, I'm two real statistics that you have to study a lot more in today's football game. Penalties, time of possession. Some of them don't really have a lot of bearing on what you think they do, but I still think penalties have to be corrected because of the yardage that it gives the other team or takes away. Time of possession is maybe a relic for certain games and certain styles of play. It doesn't bear a lot of resemblance to who wins and who loses.
Coach, you talked about Manny Morgan. How much was it Manny Morgan? How much was it that offensive line giving us some creases?
I think both. That's a good question because I think the offensive line, are very talented but have to play a lot together and getting under the gun a lot more in the heat of battle a lot more. And Marshall was the number 1 defense in their conference, whereas Wisconsin was the number 1 defense in America the year before. Marshall, I think, was the number 1 defense in their conference the year before. And so I was awful proud. But I think it was a little bit of both. Manny Morgan did a great job of picking his holes and making people miss at the line of scrimmage. The offensive line is getting better and better at targeting their assignments, making sure they put a hat on the right people. We've always known they're more athletic maybe than last year. Now that you have to take that athleticism and make sure they put their hat on the right person, on the right angle, on the right side, and they're starting to do that more. So they will be tested this week as Appalachian State does not use big, bulky guys. They'll use 220-pound nose guard or use a 210-pound defensive end, but they can fly. They will use their athletes at every position to keep coming at you full speed. It'll be a real test for us for a different type of team. Whereas Marshall, we challenged our players to be in for a fight, stay toe-to-toe with them. This game, you're going to have to challenge your team not to be out-hustled because I don't think anybody out-hustles Appalachian State, and most people that watch them play have great respect for their coaches and their players because of the way they run to the football and the way they play with the intensity they play.
Is that the primary thing you're emphasizing this week? Don't be out-hustled?
Yeah, I think you play Appalachian State. If they out-hustle you, they're probably going to get to the ball faster than your blockers will be out front. They'll play. Yeah, I think that's critical that we understand that this team is going to run. They're going to run full speed for 60 minutes, and we like that challenge. I mean, we don't mind when we say get in a fight. We don't mean a fist fight. We mean getting to a nasty block, and whoever blocks till the whistle blows or tackle. Nayland at Tennessee once said, "We don't tackle till the whistle blows. We tackle until the echo stops." And that's the fight we're talking about.
How long before you're allowed back in West Virginia?
Well, I was raised in Morgantown, not Huntington, and to a Mountaineer, which, when you graduate, I went to grade school, junior high school, and college in Morgantown. My dad was the head coach there, and I played there. If there's 2 games that you feel most emotional about in Morgantown, it's Pitt and Marshall. And so being the Akron coach that's beaten a Pitt and beaten a Marshall, it's awful nice when I go home to visit my friends I grew up with.
I mean, we ran into a lot, and all those people at the restaurants. And, my favorite team is WVU and whoever's playing Marshall.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
I mean, it's like.
Well, it's not fun. And unfortunately, it's unfair because I've been at Auburn when 80% of Alabama is for Alabama. Because the name of the state's on their hat.
Right.
Yeah.
The name of the state is of West Virginia. It's on their hat. Not that everybody graduated from West Virginia or Marshall. But that's just the way it is at Alabama and Auburn. But it's unfortunate because Doc and I both went to West Virginia, and we're not on this Marshall deal. But they're different leagues. They don't play the same. One's at a mid-major level, and so they carry a chip on their shoulder. Probably how there always have been that. And West Virginia is the capstone, and they want to be known as the capstone. And it is. So that's just part of the normal give and take.
Not to go back to that game again, but I'm going to.
okay? Well,
I haven't asked a
on
question
Tuesdays,
yet.
that's your privilege.
Well, that's okay. You've coached over 200
Right.
games, you've been in the game forever. I mean, was it on the way home or anything, did you try and wrap your head around what happened? I mean, it was, you're down in the second quarter and outscore them 58-17 in your field.
It's like I said to Doc after the game, it was just our day. Now, and it didn't start out that way.
No.
But as you look back on it, Wolfie made a catch in the goal line on a Hail Mary type of throw that just answered. Here they come back second half. They come back, score exactly what they came out, gave a great halftime talk, I imagine. Have a long drive, score a touchdown, take it down to 13. We throw a Hail Mary, he scores. All of a sudden, we've almost wasted the entire third quarter, and the score is exactly the same thing as it was. And then we just keep on making those kind of plays. And so, as I look back, all you can say over the years, one, it was very rewarding because Doc is a friend, and he is a hard-nosed coach who has taken over a program with great tradition and taken it back to where it was. And we're a program that wants respect. We're 17-point underdogs. We've won 5 out of our last 6 balls. We're 17-point underdogs. And so as a coach, you're saying, guys, that's where I want us to be. I want us to be a group of 5 preeminent program. We're just now working halfway up our conference in the real sense, and then to go down there and play like that. So when I put my hands around it, I don't know that it was a wonderful day for that reason. It doesn't take away from Marshall. It says that's one that as my career goes on through and at Akron, we're going to appreciate that win as part of our program, and we'll need more, and we'll need to continue to prove, and there won't be tough days for us here. But if I could and I have been through enough football to know that day will probably come around, and I'll get one back somewhere down the road, because that's the nature of the business. If you're in this long enough, that you're going to have days that that don't go your way and days that go your way.
Coach, you take a look at the schedule.
Mhm.
You take a look at the non-conference portion at Wisconsin, at Marshall.
Yeah.
Really good Appalachian State team. You're sitting 2-1 right now. I don't know if the right word is greedy. You get a little greedy right now, thinking, hey, we got something going good here now.
I think, thank goodness, we only have to think about one game, because if you're thinking about your non-conference schedule, there's only one left, and this one may be the best. As far as Appalachian State and Marshall, we knew where Wisconsin was, and we really knew where these two teams were, and so this game is a great opportunity for us to we know what a big game it is, and I think the biggest thing is the more I'm here, and I said this last week, there are ultimately 2 goals that you've got. We've got to get bowl eligible and go to a bowl, then we've got to go fight for our conference championship, and those aren't always one and the same. This game becomes critical as we try to, as you try to get wins. We got a team that's favored again, a team that's won 11 games last year, that like Marshall is the top 2 in their conference. Arkansas State was their number 1, their runner-up. Last year, Western Kentucky was number 1, and Marshall was runner-up in conference. Our players we're not trying to put pressure on our players, but our players know the great opportunity that's out there, and so. But again, this is a great football team. We need to go out there and just take care of our business, and understand that hard work is the only answer to this team is hard work during practice. Oop, threw that out. All righty.